Hi, everyone. Thank you for coming tonight. Um, I'm just gonna give a couple minutes to let other people join before 6 p.m. In the meantime, I don't know how you guys are doing. Are you enjoying the weather in Toronto or Canada if you are in here, or if you're in somewhere warmer? Uh, you're allowed to brag.
I'm from Vancouver and it's really depressing here.
Yeah, I imagine it's gray.
Yeah, those are the common colors, gray, blue, green. I can't think of anything to draw because it's so depressing.
I mean, you can always draw trees. I think like they always get like an interesting shape when they're like, bare naked, no leaves. That's
I don't know.
something you can draw.
It's like
But yeah, no, I understand you.
it's like
You might.
graveyard trees. Like they look dead. Like
Oh,
there's no life in them.
yeah. From Chile. Yeah, you guys are in summer right now. I envy you. I think we're like -10 today in Toronto. It feels like -18. So I definitely don't want to go outside. But yeah, I don't know if anyone was here in the first class or if this is like we did like a class in
Hello? Oh,
me. Hello.
I was adjusting.
Yeah, I remember your name. I think you were like in the first in the class we did in January, sorry, in December. Um, so we are gonna the school offered me to do like another second class before the actual workshop. So I thought it would be like a good chance to just talk about more about modeling, about Blender, and just like, meet again. And then, of course, the workshop will start next week on the 29th. I think it's going to run Wednesday, 6 to 9 as well. Um, so, yeah, if you have any questions about that, about anything related to the 10-week workshop, like we can also address some questions about that at the end.
Hey Sonia, got a question.
Yes.
Uh, do you actually use a grease pencil when you do drafts, or do you start from a 3D object first? Because I'm more of a 2D artist and I'm trying to get a hang of Blender, but there's so many features and buttons in it that I don't know where to start.
Um, I mainly like I come from Maya. I'm from 3ds Max, so I'm still like in the mindset of starting with like an object. I still haven't explored the grease pencil too much, but I do love it. I love what like people has produced with that. So I'm like in the process of learning how to integrate it in my artwork. And then I like that Blender has more flexibility in terms of like how can you approach 2D like mixed with 3D. Like it has the toon shaders, it has like hand painted textures. Um, it has different, and it has the grease pencil, so it has lots of tools for you to like um, look into that. I definitely would like to spend like it in the actual workshop like a class maybe to talking about like the grease pencil just because it's like a very powerful tool in Blender, and I think that's what really makes the program stand out compared to other softwares just because it allows you to blend something like 2D and 3D easy than other softwares.
I totally agree. And the best part is that Blender is free. Like, I can't believe that Blender is never taught in any of the animation schools in Vancouver. I wish I had been taught this. That way I could like learn 2D while I stay full time and then try learning 3D at the same time. But no, they keep like it separate. Like I had to go through Adobe Animate and Toon Boom, and I struggled so much.
I did that. Like Maximum has like a similar like in their 3D pro like sorry in their animation program. I think like it comes from like one like the school want to give you all the tools and all the programs. Because at that stage you are like trying to figure out what you want to do in the industry. So it's kind of like do 2D, do 3D, do Toon Boom, do Maya, do this other program, and see kind of like what you like. And then the idea is that then later you on live decide like, okay, I want to be a 2D animator, so I'm gonna specialize in Toon Boom or like in Adobe Animator, or I like 3D more, and then you can spend that time. Um, Blender is fairly new to the industry, so I think that's why schools are still like a little bit um, af- I wouldn't say afraid, like, but they don't prioritize teaching Blender within the program because most studios still want you to learn um, like the industry standard programs, which will be like Maya, ZBrush, Substance Painter, Photoshop for like 3D or like 2D. Yet they want you to learn Toon Boom. But you never lose by learning another program and like, you know, but yeah, it's mainly it's because Blender's not industry standard. So like the school will be like, well, we're gonna give you the programs that will guarantee you a job, or like it will give you the tools for the job. But I think since the last couple of years, Blender is been more integrated into the indie industry. Um, so a lot of smaller studios are taking Blender because it's free, it's open source. So that absolutely helps them, you know, to uh, cut some costs into the pipeline and focusing spending money in other steps of the production. Um, but yeah, that like it's mainly because of that. Yes, for the question.
Um, I have a question. I am an animator.
Mhm.
I recently ended my degree, and I'm curious about the. I joined to this session especially because I want to like model backgrounds and shade it and texture it like 2D. That's
Okay,
what that's what I that that's what I want. I
I'm
don't know
glad
if
because that's kind of like what I love too. In like I'm really getting into that workflow. So we can probably like discuss a lot of things about that. And yeah, my main interest is like 2D blended with 3D,
yeah,
or like very stylized props, uh, or like hand painted textures. That's kind of like what I'm really like
like
into it.
arcane.
I love Arcane. I love like a Spider-Verse. I love what they have bring to the table in terms of like what's industry standard and what's not industry standard. Because until like we like 5 6 years ago we didn't have those shows, so we didn't have those references uh for people to be like this is possible, you can do it and you can make money out of it. People was stuck into like no, everything has to look like a tangle.
Yep.
um so we're breaking that a little bit, and with that like we're breaking more into using different programs. Okay, I think like it's 6:07. A lot of people has joined, so I'm gonna start. For anyone that was in the last session, we were working like on a small like pixel character from like Adventure Time. I was gonna initially do that, but I thought like just because we have like a 3 full hours, I would do something a little bit more complex, and then we can do like talk about different modeling techniques and about like different stuff inside Blender. So I'm just gonna share my screen. Mm, okay, this is my screen. Perfect. So I already have some sort of scene that I'm gonna set up. Oh, sorry. Today, I have first this guy here. Last time I showed this guy with all the hotkeys from Blender. I think it's good for you if you want to take a screenshot now, or if you want to like just look at it later. But it has like most of the hotkeys that I'm gonna be using today. And they're like the ones we went through the last session. So I'm just gonna leave it there for a couple seconds so you can take a screenshot, and then this one here. This is kind of like what I want to talk today about. So we're gonna talk about loop tools, the script tool, the knife tool. We're gonna talk hopefully at the end, if we have a little bit of time, we will talk about bevels and support edges. And then we're gonna talk about normal orientation, and I'm gonna show you a little bit of the mirror modifier and the solidify modifier. Which I think is like a good, like these are the two most often uses, and the subdivide modifier. They're the three that I think you use the most in your first stages of modeling. So I think it will be good to talk about those today. So I'm just gonna take these ones away. And today we're gonna work on, I found this chest from an artist called Tanya. I found it on ArtStation. So we're gonna be working on this guy. Oh, sorry. I think perfect. Yeah, so I'm gonna be showing you how to do this little guy. Just because it's a little bit more challenging, like the 2D character I was working last time. So I kind of changed my mind last minute on that. But yeah, it's like a pretty, like this is kind of like what I like to do. Very like fantasy hand painted props. But also I like to address something with like when you model something for like your portfolio, um, you want to keep in mind a storytelling. The prop that you're making has a story, has like a personality that is like inert, like into the prop itself. If I show you this chest, you can probably start imagining the room that is around the chest, the person that owns the chest, and you can see things like, well, it's new, it's well taken care of, it has the candles, it has the books, it's you can imagine all these things. But when you're doing other types of props, for example, I don't know, gun props are like one that I see often. You're making a sword, and your sword at the end, after you model it, after you did all your textures, are like completely perfect. Like it's just out of the store. Nobody has used this sword. So you want to think, well, who is using this prop? How many battles has been? Is it dirty? Is it clean? Does the person who owns this prop takes care of it, or they don't care about it? So when you are modeling things, you kind of want to make those questions to yourself, because they will elevate your prop from like a simple object to like the next level. Most of those details will go into texturing more than like the actual modeling, but it's something good to keep in mind that you can keep adding like those layers of complexity. You know, things like scratches, field paint, missing parts of the object that are on purpose, can really tell the story of that object. Um, so yeah, I'm gonna start with like the demo for this object. Uh, okay, so first when you bring the program, like the easiest way to bring a reference, it's just by dragging it. So I have my picture on my desk, like on my, uh, sorry, I see. I don't think we have enough time to paint it. That's something like today. Um, that will be something we will be looking in the 10-week workshop. We will be like trying to take a prop like this, like a simple prop, like a sword, like a rock, something that can take you through like all the steps of like low poly, high poly, UVs, and then texturing. That would be kind of like the objective of the workshop. Sorry, yeah, the 10-week workshop. Today, I'm only gonna focus in the modeling of the object, just for time purposes. Um, so I was saying, um, okay, sorry, I got distracted with the comments. Okay, so I have my picture. I'm just gonna drag it, and it's just gonna appear on my screen. And then I'm gonna have this menu that is very important because the second I click outside, the menu disappears, and it's gonna be hard to uh, like bring it back or edit the object. You have an option, and it's like if you click outside by mistake, you can still come to press N, and you have like your transforms. But it will be only your transformation, like where your location and rotation of the object is. For some objects that I will show you later, that menu will be gone, and you kind of like marry to what you choose in that menu. So here I'm just gonna zero out everything just to bring my reference picture into like the middle of my canvas, and to make sure that is rotated 90 degrees in the X and Z axis. So now it's full on the middle and it's completely aligned with my orthographic view. And then I'm gonna send it to the back. I'm gonna press 3 on my keyboard. That's gonna bring me into the orthographic view. So I'm gonna press N again to get this menu out of my way. You see, someone was having problems last time. How you navigate orthographic view is with your numpad, specifically with the numpad. So if you, for any reason you can, navigate your orthographic view like this, uh, I can rotate. I'm pressing 6 and it's rotating, or if I press 1, it brings me to the side view. If I press 3, it brings me to the front view. If you can't do that for any reason, you always have this menu as an option. If you press X, it brings you to the X axis. And if you press X again, it brings you to the negative side. So that means that we're like in the, sorry, this is the positive. If I press it again, it will bring me to the negative. Same with the Y axis and then C. So just keep in mind that you have this menu, which is very useful over here. And then here, I'm just gonna scale my reference. It's a little bit bigger. I think that's good enough. And then, so I don't select it by mistake. Like, if I'm working on my cube and then I select it and move it, or something like that happens, I'm gonna come to this menu called Object, that it will only be when, like, it will only appear if you select the object. So I'm in object mode. I select my object. I come to object menu. I come to visibility, and then I'm gonna unclick selectable. So now I can select my reference, no matter like kind of like what I do. Even if I still try to select it here on this my outliner, it won't select. So that's good. Like once you're like, I want my reference here, you can do that. There is a second way to bring a reference into Blender, and I will be doing it by dragging this window. And then I'm gonna come to image editor, and I can't do it. I will be able to do the same by dragging my reference to this, and then I'm gonna pin it so it doesn't go away. And then now you have like a side, like a front view that is locked, and you have it also in your canvas. This will be useful because sometimes, like if you're working for a studio, they will give you like a full prop rotation or character rotation. You know, like your front view, your side view, your back view of your character. So that would be useful for you to see all the sides and like get the model to be like as 100% accurate to that reference. If you're working in something with less of a budget, like maybe an indie project, or like, you know, like a game with your friends, or like something that you find on the internet, you might not have that full view, but you can make sure that you get an object that you can imagine. Like, you know, we have enough information on the chest to know that this side is probably equal to this side. The back won't have like a lot of detail. We can take some liberty and make some details in some objects that we're making. But yeah, you kind of want to look for a reference that gives you enough information so you don't have to do a lot of guesswork while you try to model the object. So now that my reference are here, I'm just gonna arrange my menu, and then gonna come back to 3. Perfect. So I can start working on my object. I'm gonna select my cube, and then if you press tab like this, you can see that it is switching me between edit mode and object mode. Object mode would only allow you to do like basic transformations. So I can scale my object, I can rotate it, I can move it like side or like front, but it won't let you do anything else. If you want to like actually edit the object, you need to go into your edit mode, and it will open this menu that has like all your tools. You can access all these tools by using shortcuts, or you can just click them and work with them. Some of them, as you will see later, have like crazy shortcuts. So sometimes it's just easier to come and click the tool than try to figure out the shortcut in the keyboard. But I would suggest to find whatever is easier for you. And then actually I'm going to come back to object mode, and then I'm going to start moving my, like scaling my object. I like to use the transform tool because it gives me my scale, it gives me my rotation, and it gives me my movement all in one tool. So I don't have to click that many shortcuts, and I kind of have everything that I need in one. The only thing that it doesn't do is a scale uniform. So I will still have to do it manually like this by pressing S and scaling. And then just remember that you can always press, let's say, come back to here. If I want to scale in the X axis, I just press scale X, and it's going to scale only on my X axis. And if you want to confirm, you press right click. Oh, sorry, left click. That was my bad. If you press right click, it's going to cancel your action. If you press left click, it's going to confirm your action. So just to go back to that, I'll press S to scale. I'll press X to scale on the X axis, and then I'll press left click, and then that will give me my transformation. In this case, I will be using this one. So I'm just going to make my cube just to look like the bottom of the chest. We have like enough of the proportions that you can kind of see. And then, for example, now I want to select this face and skew it a little bit. So I'm going to go back to edit mode. I'm going to select my face and I'm going to go back to the transform tool and do that scaling manually. Think it needs a little bit more in both sides. A lot of things are eyeball, so don't get too stressed if it's like not millimetric. But then I'm gonna go back to my orthographic view to the front and see how I'm doing. Right now I can't see my reference picture. So I will come to this menu, the toggle X-ray, and click it, and it allows me to see through my model. So it's very useful when you're working with reference because you can see what's behind, or if you have multiple objects. I think it was Alt-C, the shortcut on the keyboard. Yes, Alt-C, or you can just click it here. We're gonna be using that guy a lot, so I'm just gonna put it back, and then I'm like, okay, maybe my chest is too big. So I'm gonna go back to object mode. I'm gonna scale it down. It's kind of like, I'm also gonna keep my cube in the middle. I don't wanna like move it around. I will explain you why in a second. But as you see, my object right now is aligned to the axis of the orthographic view. So because we're gonna be using the modifiers, you wanna stay in the center to make your life easier. The second you wanna like you go here, your modifier might not work as you want to. So the best advice I can give you is if you're modeling, model it in the center of your canvas. Keep it on the center, do all your transformations, do all your stuff in the center. And then once you're done, you can move it or drag it to whatever you need it on your scene. For example, if you're doing a room, I would do all my objects on the center. And then as I'm done with them, I can move them around and rotate them and like put them where I want them in my scene. That way, like you keep your topology clean and you really make your life easier by doing that. So there's gonna be a little bit of eyeballing here, but I'm just gonna skew it a little bit more and I'm gonna skew it here. It's kind of like 2/3 of this chest is just the lead. So I think this is like good enough. And then I'm gonna go back and see. I think that's good enough for now. So I'm gonna disable my toggle X-ray. Um, that's the bottom of your chest. That would be like the blocking stage of it. So now I'm gonna address the lead. I think there's multiple ways to do this. I think it's easier to start with primitive shapes. Those are uh, spheres, like UV spheres, cylinders, or squares of cubes in this case. Because they're basic shapes, you can get most of objects out of that, and it will have like enough topology for you to work with them. So I just want to mention something super quick before I create my cylinder for my lid. If I'm in edit mode and I press Shift A, which is my menu to add an object, you can either, add here or add by pressing Shift A. If I add my cylinder now, oh, sorry, that was, if I add my cylinder now and I go back to object mode, you're gonna notice this is one object. And if you check on my outliner, it's all one object. So that can get very messy very quick. So you gotta be careful when you're adding objects to your scene. Always add them on object mode if that's what you need. If you need combined objects, then you can add them on edit mode. That's something to keep in mind because right now, if I wanted this to be a separate object, I will have to split them and reposition my pivot point. So I'm just gonna go back, delete my cylinder. and make sure that I added on object mode. And then if I press Shift A, you see that the menu is bigger. It's because technically I can add more stuff. When I'm in edit mode, I can only add more objects or primitive shapes. But if you are in object mode, you can add like all these things. Like you can add cameras, you can add your lights, images, all of that. So you come to mesh, and we're gonna add my cylinder. I have it set it up for 24 loops. I think the default is 32. It will come like this when you like open the program for first time and add a cylinder for first time. You can control how many vertices your object has here. So I'm gonna put it back to 24. I think this for me is enough geometry to work with, and keep it kind of low poly while doing the blocking stages. And then you can control other things like, oops, I deleted. I went too far in Control C, so I'm gonna add it again. I'm gonna put 1 again, but you can control the radius of your object, how like big it is. You can control the depth, how long is your object. So this is the menu I was talking about. You wanna make your decisions here, because once I'm like, okay, this is good, and I click outside, the menu's gone. You can, I think it's F9. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Like doing F9 is like your last operation, but most of the time it will be gone. So you want to make all those changes in here first, and then add your object. And then you can see I have a cube and I have a cylinder and I have like my image I can select. So now I'm gonna go back to this orthographic view and I'm gonna flip my object. It opens the rotate menu, so I'm just gonna make sure this is 90. And now I have my cylinder and a 90-degree angle. Now I'm gonna press 1. This is gonna bring me to the side view, and then I'm gonna add with my knife tool. Knife tool, you can find it here, or you can press K, and it's gonna bring this. I recommend using the knife tool on your vertex mode, because you can't, that you're doing cuts through vertices, so it's easier if you can see it, because you can by mistake, for example, click here and click here, and you will be adding this vertex like in a place that you know, that doesn't go to anywhere. So I'm just gonna click back, and yes, as Mario is saying, I think you can press R and write 90 for the to bring your cylinder into 90-degree. I like that from Blender. It gives you so many options. I don't know all of them, but there is like 5 ways to do the same thing. So you can always find whatever makes sense for you. So things with the knife tool, same as other tools. If I press K, I bring the knife tool. If I press right click, it cancels the tool. If I press left click, it confirms my cut. So I'm just gonna cut here, click in my vertex, click in my other vertex, and then I create, see, that thing can happen. And then I'm gonna click with my right click, and it kind of like lets me go. And then I can come and do the same on the other side. And then I press right click, and it lets me go. And then to confirm my cuts, I have to press enter. And now you see I have those cuts in my geometry. So this is useful for me because I don't want the bottom half of my object. So I'm gonna come back to the toggle X-ray that lets me see through. I'm gonna come to face mode, and I'm gonna select all my faces, and then you can see that it selects everything. That's why the toggle X-ray is so useful. If I was to select the faces without the toggle, and I do this, it only selects the faces that are facing my camera. So it won't select anything on the other side. So that's kind of why you want to use this guide pretty much all the time. So I'm going to do that again. I'm going to come to orthographic view 1, to my side view, select everything, hit delete, and then my faces are gone. And now I have the upper part of my chest, kinda. But now I can bring it down and I can start scaling. It's kind of like very tall. So I'm just gonna bring it up. And then if I come to my side view, I can like start scaling and okay, that's good. I think the bottom part still too large, like too tall compared to like the lead. I'm just gonna scale it, and then I'm gonna bring this up. And then you can see it makes like this like weird shape. I kind of want my chest to be a little bit more wider. You see that it's not as narrow on the top. So I'm gonna come back to edit mode. I'm gonna get out of the toggle ray because something annoying is that you see I'm in face mode and I'm trying to select my faces. It doesn't really work. It's gonna try to select like faces through other faces. So you wanna go back to like your regular solid mode and select whatever you need to select. So I'm gonna select, I think, this face, and then make sure I'm selecting the back one. And now I'm gonna press O, or I'm gonna hit this guy, which is proportional editing. So that's gonna allow you to edit your object uh, proportionally. That means if I don't have it activated right now, you can see it's gray. If I was gonna scale this, you see that it's only scaling the faces I select. So it's doing like that weird thing. But if I press O and activate my proportional editing, when I scale, um, it kind of scales everything together. Actually, yeah. And it's making the chest, the top lid, a little bit of more wide. And it's like moving, affecting these faces at the same time. Just want to make sure because something weird happened. I don't know if I move. I don't know why it's making my top face. You see when I scale it, it kind of moves this line and it's not center anymore. And I don't like that because I want to keep everything as symmetric as possible. So I'm probably not gonna do that. Maybe if I do something, I don't have anything else. Oh, I think it's because of this. I'm gonna change this to medium point, meaning that it would do like the center of the two objects I'm selecting. If I do individual origins, it's trying to affect only the faces within the same position of the faces. I think it's that. I'm gonna change it to medium. I'm gonna select the faces. Yeah, it was that. You see that now it's scaling everything a little bit more uniform and it's not affecting my top line anymore, which is what I want. I think that kind of makes more sense for a chest. I'm gonna still come back to object mode and I'm gonna give it a little bit of um, room on the sides because I wanna make this a straight line. I want it to follow this angle. For this, you can use, I'm gonna go back to edit mode, face mode. You can use this tool called shear. I found the craziest shortcut for this tool. I'm gonna come to my orthographic view. If I press Shift, Control, Alt, and S, it works. It does that angle movement that I want, but I'm clapping my hand, like I'm selecting 4 keys. I just wanted to show you that because I think that's crazy that you can do that. That's too many keys. And then you can control your offset with this button here. Yes, I'm gonna repeat it, and then I'm gonna show you how, like, an easy way to do it. I thought it would be fun to mention, but yeah, it's Shift, Control, Alt, and then S for scaling, and then it lets you do that. If you don't want to do that, because that's crazy, you can make sure that you are in your face that you wanna scale, and then come to the shear option, and you see it opens this box. So, and all of these little handles will let you skew your object in only that axis. So for the top one will be this one. So I was just saying it would be much easier for you to come to the shear tool. And you can see here on the bottom that is Shift Control Alt S is the shortcut for this tool. And then you can just edit this. I'm kind of eyeballing a little bit here, but then I can come to my offset. I like to make these numbers as even as possible because I have to make the same angle in the other side. So if I select a random number that then I can't remember, then when I'm applying the same skew on the other side, it's not gonna be as symmetric, and we don't want that. So I'm gonna do 0.25. I think that's good. That's good enough. Maybe 26. Yeah, that's better. And then now I'm gonna do the same on this side by selecting the face, coming to my front view, and then I just pull the handle, oops, and then you see it moves. And then, because it's in the negative side, like in the other side, and it's mirroring, then it will be a negative number. But now we know that I use 0.26, and it's gonna do the same angle. And that's how you will get that skew angle on the sides. Okay, from here, I will say like this is the blocking stage of your chest. This is kind of like where you want to start before adding any detail. You want to like look at your proportions, look that everything is kind of like making sense, that you like it before you add more geometry. Because as you see, if I want to change my angle, this is the moment that I don't have like any of the cuts through this, or I don't have any extra geometry, or like in a second I'm gonna add some loop tool cuts. So yeah, you want to make sure that you like what you're doing before adding more stuff. Okay, in edit mode, I'm gonna now add the loop tools on the sides. If I select my loop cut, you can do this and just put one in the middle and it will add it on the middle. Or I need two actually, because I want one here and one here to like make these excursions for my chest. So a way to do it is, you see, the tool has a menu here. I can just edit and add 2, and now it adds 2, or it adds more. And then it will give you this option menu where like you can add more cuts, you can move them. Oops, sorry. Um, the factor will move them. So yeah, touch smoothness. What I meant is factor. It will move them around. So you can do a lot of things. So now, if I wanna move them symmetrically, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna add my 2 cuts, and then while the new loops that I put are selected, I'm gonna hit my transform tool and I'm gonna scale them. And then I'm gonna choose where to put them. I think this is good. And then you deselect them and they're there. And that's all you need to do to add them. And then there is a moment of decision. I think I'm gonna duplicate my object now. You will see why later. But I'm gonna duplicate this cylinder, this lid that I have right now by hitting Shift D. And if I move it, it's gonna, like I can put it on top. I can put it in any place I want. I don't want that. There's nothing in there. So I'm just gonna hit Shift D and immediately press left click. And that's gonna put my object exactly where its origin is. So you can see it's here. If I hit Control C, it's gonna go back to the place, and then I'm just gonna hide it for now. But now we know I have a cylinder here, and that I'm gonna use later. The other thing I know is, and I want to move right now. I'm gonna activate the toggle. Is my I like where my lines in the side is, but you can see this like extrusion right here, like the metal detail of the chest. It's not as white as this one. So I want to move it a little bit to the bottom and make it narrower. So I'm going to come to my vertex mode. I'm going to select my line, and then I'm going to press G, which is kind of like the move tool. But if I move it, it's just going to move it anywhere. Actually, first I have to deselect my proportional editing, because you saw there, that's a good example, that if I move my line, my vertex is going to move everything together and it's kind of affecting everything that is close. So if you want that, fantastic. If you don't want that, make sure you disable it when you're done using it. And now if I was going to move the line, it's just going to move in that axis. But you can see that it kind of like messes up with my geometry. It's not as uniform as I want to. So the best way to do that is you press G and you press G again. And now it slides that loop along the vertex. So it's going to stay where it needs to be. And now I'm going to reduce a little bit of the distance, I think. That's good. We can commit to that. And you can see it affects both sides and it's all good. Now that I have that, I'm gonna add this extrusion. Multiple ways to do things. Some people like to, let's say, extrude this. Like I have seen some people select like this guy, oops, like select all of this, like all of this and like take it out. That's a way to do it. I have seen people duplicate it and make it separate objects. I like to keep things that make sense together. We're gonna talk about like when do you want to choose to keep things like pieces together or separate later. So what I'm gonna do actually is I'm gonna screw the middle because I find it's easier and less destructive than trying to modify all these lines here. So to select like a row of faces or vertices, I'm gonna press in the face I want to select, and then I'm gonna press Control, and it's gonna select that line, and it's gonna pick the shortest path, and then it gives you the menu to like do some modify some stuff. So I'm gonna do that again. I select one face. I wanna go to the other face I wanna select, hit Control and select, and it's gonna select all my faces. And now I'm gonna hit E for a screw, and you see I can move this. Be careful when you screw, because for example, if I click, right click, you can see that I did something, you know, I moved the tool, I put some faces in there. And if I didn't move it, right now I'm gonna have malformed geometry that I can't see. And there is gonna be a problem later. I can show you quickly now if I want to add a subdivision surface. That is it has like a weird pinching right here. And in the back of my model, it's not subdividing like nicely, and it's because I have that geometry. So just very careful when you screw things. I'm just gonna Control C. I'm gonna deactivate this, I think. And you can always check by like, you know, if I move this, there's no vertex, there's nothing in there. If there was something, it will kind of like pop. Like I'm gonna hit a screw in this one and like kind of put it in the same place. If, you know, this face has nothing, everything is good, but this face will do this, or like it will be inside. So just something to keep in mind. Okay, see, there is nothing. So I'm gonna select this. I'm gonna select with Control, and I'm gonna extrude, and then I'm gonna press S for scale. And then scale tends to do that thing. If someone knows how to stop it, please let me know. But I don't know. I think it's my mouse, so it's very finicky. So just don't panic if it like blows out of your screen, or like if you're having a problem with, you know, like keeping it in place. Oh my god, it's usually not this bad. But yeah, I don't know why it does that. And that's, I think, the only thing I don't like from Blender is I don't have as much control for my scaling as I would do with Maya. Uh, okay, I think that's good enough. It's maybe a little bit too wide, so I'm just gonna, well, have my faces selected. I can just, you know, edit this, bring it a little bit down. You can always like come and say like, you know, like the space here is not the same as here. So you can come and edit this space, like this spaces here. Make sure you select the same amount in the other side, and then bring them a little bit up, just a tiny bit, and you see like now that gap is a little bit more even. And that's how you will have the lid of your chest. Now, here I want to do okay, I will try that like when I do the the thing. I don't know why I always have like so many issues with like uniforms scaling, but yeah, thank you for the advice. It's probably that. Okay, now that we're here, I'm gonna add my mirror modifier. I'm gonna repeat a lot of what I just did, but I want to show you why I'm adding the mirror modifier now and why I didn't add it before, because I think that's important for you to see. So I'm gonna do Control C all this, get a gun, make sure that, oh, I have faces screwed. Okay, make sure I have nothing, and I'm gonna add my mirror modifier now. By doing that, I'm gonna come to loop cut, make sure I have one cut and put it on the middle. Now I'm gonna press 3, press face mode, go to move, select everything, press delete, get rid of the faces. So I got rid of half of my model, but I have like a straight line in the middle. And my model, as I mentioned before, is lined up perfectly to the middle of my canvas. So what's gonna do is when I go back to object mode and then add a modifier, I can go to, you can press search and it's gonna show you like the last modifiers you use. So you can see I have it here, or I think is in generate. Most of them are, yeah, you have solidified, subdivision, and then you have mirror here. These are the ones we're looking at. So I'm just gonna add this guy. It looks like it did nothing, but it's because it's duplicating my model in the x-axis. So technically it's duplicating the model on top of the model. So I'm gonna activate my c-axis, and now I have the model in the other half of the model on the other side. Is C, because remember we rotate our cylinder 90 degrees. So technically the C face, which is this one, is not facing up, is facing to the side. That's why C and not Y. If I do Y, it will like reflect my model on the bottom. You can always play with those things. And then the other thing I want to make sure is that I have clipping activated right here. That means that the vertex in the middle, like this line along in the middle, is merging the vertex, is clipping them all together. So it's one line instead of two lines. And that's very useful. And you want to make sure that that's activated for when you apply the modifier. So what the mirror modifier did right now, if I select something and I move it, you see it's doing both things at the same time. So if I do this, any geometry, any changes I apply to this side, it would be instantly added on this side of the model. And I cannot select or do anything on the mirror. You see, I'm trying to do anything, it won't let me. But the second I'm in the original part of the model, it will let me edit. And then it will reflect everything side by side. So it's very useful, especially when you're working with like stuff like this, because they're very symmetric. It's good to have that. So now I'm gonna do that screw shot that we did before. I'm gonna hit Control. I got my line. And if I want to press E and scale, oops, oh my God. Okay, you said to put my cursor further. Yeah, you are right. It was that. Okay, perfect. And now does it. And you can do it. And funny enough, it didn't do the thing that bothers me. So it worked. That's funny because I have like a full lesson prep on why it didn't work the first time. I don't know what I did that time, but it worked today. So we're glad. And that means you can use the mirror modifier to do excursions like this. And then it will make it a little bit easier on you Because now if I'm selecting this face to do that, to fix that angle that I did earlier, it's gonna do it at the same time. Oh, I think I have a face over there. I'm gonna go back. Okay, I hit Control. Sorry, a lot of the things I do is because I'm trying to talk and model at the same time. It's a little bit harder to click and keep track of what I'm doing. So sorry if some of the things are repetitive. Uh, I just struggle with like doing both things at the same time. So okay, I'm gonna press E. I'm gonna press scale. It looks like there is no weird faces anywhere. Good, that's good. And then I'm gonna select my faces. I'm gonna bring that a little bit up. And that's good. And then we're back where we began. But yeah, that's another way to do it. You can always apply the mirror modifier. Now I'm gonna add the faces on this side of the model. I'm gonna add with the knife tool. I'm gonna come to vertex mode and I'm gonna press that was left click, and now I'm gonna press right click, let go my tool. I'm gonna press enter. And I'm gonna have that loop. I'm gonna delete, now that I have this connection here, I'm gonna delete my faces here. And what I'm actually gonna do, didn't delete faces, perfect, is that I'm gonna come to, oh, sorry, it's one to my side view for a second, but first I'm gonna select this row. You can, if you hit Alt, it's gonna select everything, which is easy because you only have to deselect one of these ones with Shift, and we will let it go. Or you can do the shortest path that we used early by selecting one face and then hitting Control on the other one, and it selects everything for you. So now that I have that, I'm gonna press 1, and I'm gonna screw those faces inwards. And then, oops, yeah, I gotta put my cursor out of my screen. Perfect. And I'm gonna eyeball a little bit. Looking at my reference, I think this is good. You see that it is screw. Things are like a little bit wonky. So I'm gonna select my edges here, and I'm gonna add a loop cut with 2 of them. Perfect. And I'm gonna hit transform, and then I'm gonna scale them. I'm kind of using this line, like the grid, as a point of reference uh, to know where to put things. So I think that's good. And then I'm gonna go back to 1. And then I'm gonna go back to vertex mode, and I'm gonna activate my snapping, which is this one. Like this magnet tool here is called snap. But first I gotta make sure I select vertex because I'm gonna snap one vertex to another one. So I want the closest vertex to get snapped. So I make sure it's in closest, I select vertex, and I activate my tool. So that's gonna, what it's gonna do is if I hit G, it's gonna snap the vertex to each other. And now they're together. And then if I come here, you see, I'm gonna deactivate it to move it. Oh, it didn't. That's why it's good to check things. Oh, it's because I didn't have this tool activated. It's called auto merge vertex. You gotta make sure it's activated for it to work. Otherwise it won't. So I'm just gonna bring it. Gotta zoom now a lot to make sure this is moving the other one. Uh-oh. So I'm just gonna Control C. Sometimes it's just easier. Okay, we're back here. So now that I make sure this is activated and I activate my snap mode and I make sure this is in the settings I want it to be. Again, if I press G, which is smooth, it will snap the vertex to the closest one. So you kind of just drag it and it will connect the vertex to the one you want. And now this should have worked. And now you have these things together. And then you can check here that everything is working. It's doing that weird thing because it's trying to snap. So that's why I say, like, once you're done, make sure you're deactivating things. It's a good habit. And then I'm gonna select these two, and then I'm gonna bring them a little bit down just to make a better workflow. And I'm still using that kind of like the grid as a guide. And you want things to be a little bit uniform too. Okay, that's good enough. So now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna select everything with Alt. So I select one corner, I hit Alt and select everything. And I'm gonna press F. That will fill the face. And now you have this. You can see it kind of moves things a little bit out. So you can just bring it back to where it belongs. Perfect. And that what this is making is now I have like enough geometry. I'm kind of like replicating what I have here. I want to have like this cut so I can screw inside the side of my chest. Perfect. So I'm gonna add the rest of the geometry now because it's doing some weird, like, just see like this looks weird. And it's because it doesn't have enough geometry for like this hole to work. So I'm just gonna come with my knife tool in vertex mode. And if you click and press shift, it's gonna bring it to the middle of my object. And then I'm gonna start adding those loop cuts to make sure I have enough geometry for the next stage. And then here, if you press shift and you kind of like magnetize it to the middle, it's doing like this nice shape. Left click, sorry, right click. And then I'm gonna do the same here. And then that's good. So now that I have this geometry, I can do a screw inside my model. I don't know what happened, if I did something wrong, but I don't like that I have like these weird bumps in my geometry. I don't know what I did there. So I'm just gonna go quickly back and yeah, I think when I move the vertex, I must have moved something. I'm gonna keep them here because that looks more clean. Yeah, that looks way better. Then I'm gonna wait until I have like the full loop to do that move because I think that was too big for the program to read. So I'm gonna select, press F, and then on knife tool, hit the vertex I need. And then I'm gonna do this. Before I add the other one, I wanna see if like now I can move this, maybe with G. I'm gonna press G and then I'm gonna press G again and it's gonna move it along the edges. And yeah, that's better. Now it maintains the shape of my angle without like creating those weird loops. So I'm gonna do the same with this one. And I'm gonna just bring it a little bit down. I'm gonna press G and then G again and bring it down. Okay, yeah, that's better. Then if I bring it on this side, it doesn't have like any weird bumps. So now I'm gonna go back to my knife tool and then I'm gonna add this cut and then add this cut again. And then I hit enter and now I have it. Perfect. Now I have this. I'm gonna come to face mode and select the faces in the middle. And I'm gonna do extrusion inside. So I'm gonna press E and then I'm gonna press, I'm just gonna bring it a little bit to the back so it's easier. I'm gonna left click to accept it. And then I'm gonna scale it a little bit inwards, not too much, just enough to give him some depth. And I'm gonna bring this a little bit down so it's even. And now you have in both sides of your chest, technically you could be done here. Like if this was like a low, like a very low poly object, prop for like a video game or for like something that you don't need that much geometry, something that is like very on the background, you could be like, this is pretty much done. The only thing is if I wanted to add subdivisions right now, it's not gonna be as nice, you know? One thing is if I come, I'm gonna deactivate my wireframe. Is in show overlays. You click this menu. It has like a lot of interesting things. One thing that I like to have is a statistics, which is this menu over here. That gives me like the info on objects, vertices, edges, faces, triangles. So I like to have that activate. And then I'm using wireframe just to see my wireframe while I'm working, just because it's useful to see it in all your objects. So you see that it's kind of like shaded flat. It has like these very hard faces. Yeah, no problem. And this is recording. So if you miss something, you can always go back to like the YouTube recording probably tomorrow or in a couple of days, and then you can catch up with anything that you missed. So you see the shading is flat. That's how you're gonna low poly object is gonna look. If I was right clicking on top of the object and I'm hitting shade smooth, you know, it doesn't look that nice. It doesn't have enough geometry to do a smooth shading. So I'm gonna put it back on flat shading. And then the other thing I was mentioning, if I was gonna add a subdivision surface to add more geometry, maybe to make it a high poly and to sculpt some detail, you can see that I'm gonna activate the wireframe again so you can see. Like, it's not as nice. It has some that we're pinching. It's not holding the shape. The hard edges you want are not there. So I'm gonna deactivate my surface, and then I'm gonna show you how to add bevels to on how to add that supporting geometry. But first, before I almost forgot, we're gonna talk about normal orientation, and I'm gonna show you why I duplicate this guy. So you can see there is some black face there. It's because my other object is in there and it's trying to fight for who of like which face is in front of the camera. So I'm gonna hit my cube and I'm gonna hit my reference for a second. And I'm just gonna scale this object down a little bit. Because I duplicated because I want it to be like the inside of my chest. There is a nice modifier called solidify that is very useful in most of situations. Unfortunately, I think it's not useful on this one. I'm gonna show you here. I have my mirror. I'm gonna add solidify. It didn't seem like it did that much, but you can see that it add the inside geometry. So you could work with this. That could be the inside of your chest. But because I want some thickness on the edges, I will have to add more thickness, something probably something like this. And then you can see that's where like my problem begins, is that the geometry starts like overlapping because it has so much detail and so much like excrusions that is also solidifying those excrusions at the same time. So it works good for like something like around like here, you know, it doesn't have that much pinching, especially in this corner. It keeps the shape. But if I wanted something like scale it down to have like that thickness, that's why I duplicate my model and save it to use it later. I'm gonna delete the solidify for now, and I'm gonna show you this guy. I have it here, this sphere. Oh, it's here. The solidify is fantastic for simple objects like this could be a bowl or like a mug or something like that that doesn't have like that much edges. Sorry, that much excrusions. If I was to I'm gonna shade smooth, you see that now. Well, we have the wireframe on top, so it's hard to see, but it's shading smoothly. And I'm gonna select my object and add that solidify. And you can see it kind of create that inside face. And if I put the thickness, this is how it works. So it's giving me all this geometry. Um, so as I say, something like a bowl, like a table, something that doesn't have that much geometry, um, it would be good to use. And then if you put only rim, it kind of like only creates the rim, but the rest is empty. So that is also an option. Or like, you know, you have even thickness. You can play with that. Um, I wanted to mention it because it's a good modifier. It's the most useful. It lets you get like the thickness of inside your model because most of the time you're working kind of like with a plane or a cube that is hollow. And then if you want to add that extra detail, you can use this modifier. So I just wanted to show you that. And then, yeah, if I delete it, you can see that that's gone. If I wanted to commit to that, if I'm like, I like it, I like how it looks, like this is good, this is my ball, and I want that geometry to be real, I have to make sure I'm in object mode, and then I can come here and apply. And now all of that is real geometry that I can select, you know. Right now I can select the face, and I'm not selecting the outside face of my ball. And you can do that. Okay, so that was just something I wanted to mention today. I'm gonna go back to my chest lid and to that object that I duplicate. And I'm gonna hide this. Okay, so yeah, also the other reason why I like to use this is that I don't need, like, I might see the inside of my chest. If you think like on what you're doing with this chest, like maybe if you open it, you have like a shot in an, or like in like an animation project or like on a video game, if it's a prop that you can open, you might see the inside, so you might want to do the inside. If not, you could just leave it hollow, like it doesn't really matter. It really depends on what you're working with. So now I could, well, right now they're separate objects, so there's not a lot I can do. What I'm gonna do first is that I'm gonna select this. I'm gonna isolate it. Perfect. And I'm gonna add that mirror modifier. Because when I join the objects, if I don't, like I can show you now, if I was going to merge these two, you see what happens? It kind of like deletes my modifier because this object doesn't have a modifier. So the program takes that into account. So if you wanted to both to have a mirror modifier, then what you have to do is, well, this is an individual object, you add the modifier. So edit mode, make sure it's one cut, loop on the middle, toggle X-ray, face mode, move, select all my faces, delete faces, and now I'm back to being able to have that modifier. So I'm gonna go back to object mode and then mirror, same as the other object, is gonna be on my Z axis because it's a duplicate of the cylinder. So now you know that. I'm gonna disable this one and then I'm gonna activate my clipping. I'm gonna deselect this and make sure that everything looks good. That's perfect. And then I'm gonna go back to seeing my two objects and I'm gonna quickly, before joining them, I'm gonna add this geometry right here. Perfect. Now that that's there, I may need to add an extra loop. I think so, because I think I end adding one extra loop when I create the extrusion. Yeah, this one, like technically this is, oops, sorry, I'm just gonna put it here. Technically, this is an extra loop that I'm gonna need here. So perfect. Now that I have that geometry, that is all good, I can go back to object mode, select both objects with shift, and then hit Control G, and that's my combine. If you combine something by accident, it's P. No, it's not P. It's supposed to be P. Okay, I'm gonna look for that in the break just to make sure that I'm giving you the correct uh, shortcut. But yeah, right here, my objects are joined and they both have a mirror modifier. So that means that anything that I do on this side of the model, it will be reflected in the side of the model in the whole object. So I'm gonna quickly go to edit mode and go to loop, like edge mode, hit shift alt at the same time. So if you press shift, you press alt, you select one line. Oh, see, that happens sometimes, is that I'm in the back of my model. Technically it's this side, yeah. And then while still pressing shift alt, I can select this whole loop instead of like having to select like faces individually like this. So I'm gonna repeat that. Select one edge that you want, shift alt, press next to it, and then press the other one that you want, and it's gonna select everything together. And now I'm gonna press F, and it's gonna give me the rest of my geometry. I'm looking that, oh yeah, no, I need it. I do need it. Okay. So I'm gonna come back to my cut tool and I'm gonna start making sure like these are together. So I'm just gonna deselect, press knife, and then add this cut to make sure that everything is connected. Okay, I press enter to accept, and then you see everything is reflected, everything is nice. I'm not being too picky, to be honest, like just for model purposes in the demo. I'm not being too picky, like these ones are facing straight, just because we're not really gonna see the side of the model. I just wanted to show you how to add it. I will spend more time like making sure these are a little bit more aligned. In hard surfacing, it doesn't bother that much because this object is not gonna be deformed, you know, it's not gonna have like probably any rigging that will deform the lid. So you have like a little bit more freedom on how your edges are distributed. I just still want them to be nicely in parts that you're gonna see your model, like for example here. Because when you add your UVs and you do your texturing, you want that to be like nicely displayed. But yeah, if you don't need to deform uh rig your object like you would do with like a human character, like something more organic, then you have a little bit more of free room to like not make everything like 100% straight and like facing the same angle. So now that I have these, technically I could add those edge loops now. I just wanted to show you something that is going to happen here. And it's like, if I was going to add an edge loop here, uh, sorry, a bevel, just see it's like doing this weird deformation. Like this is not how this tool works. How like a bevel works, for example, is if I select all my faces here, and then I add a bevel, it's giving me like this nice crease that will let me like give my model more geometry. So when I add that subdivision modifier, then these are gonna be hard edges because I have enough geometry. But you can see that this is not working for some reason. It could be two things. If when you're trying to add a bevel to add your support edges and it's not working, it could be that you have malformed geometry. That means that you have to check like, did I add like an extra vertex? Did I add something weird that is not in there? So you will come and like select your vertex and be like, okay, I don't have anything weird. The other reason is because we duplicate a bunch of things. It could be that the normals of my model are not facing all the same way, which is what's happening here. How you will see that, you come back to this show overlay, you open this menu, and you're going to hit face orientation. So this blue model right here, like this blue color, means that your face, your normal, is looking to the camera. If it's red, it's the inside of the model. That means that the faces that are looking at the camera are technically on the back of this model. That would be the inside. I don't know if that's kind of clear. If anyone has questions, I know this can be a little bit confusing, but like a normal is what tells the program, not the program, but like the camera, where like your your face is looking. So right now, if I was gonna render this, I mean, it looks ugly because it doesn't have like, it has like the any geometry, but you can see that it's a model in here. If I render this, oh, it's because it's camera based. Oopsie, sorry. I will show you in a second. Okay, never mind. I don't want to get too complicated moving the camera right now. But what I want to make emphasis is that if it's red, it's not facing your camera, it's facing the inside of your model. And that's going to bring you a lot of problems. So what you do is you press in face mode, you press like, you select just any face, and then you press L, and it's going to select the entire model. And then you press Shift N, and then it's going to recalculate your normals, and it's going to tell your model to take all faces and show them to the camera. So now when I add that velvet, it's going to work because now my model is all looking at the same direction. Sorry if that was confusing. It sounds better in my mind when I practice it. It's just like a little bit confusing topic. But now if I add, where is it, velvet, and I add it, you see that now it works how it's supposed to work, and I have no issues. It's because all the faces are looking at the same model. And now what I can do is I'm gonna add all those support edges to my model. Make sure, I think you can come to select sharp edges, and it's gonna select for you already the sharp edges. And you could technically add the velvet right now. And then you can come here and a more accurate. And you will see that it gives you enough geometry. I'm having one issue here that I will explain you in a second. This is because I have the meter outer set to arc. It's usually by default set at sharp, which will make like this weird corner. You know, like it's keeping this as quads, but it's gonna do some pulling to your model when you subdivide. So if I add a modifier and I press search, and you know, you see that it's not screwing good. It's because your model doesn't have enough geometry to hold that corner that we just add. So I'm gonna just go back quickly and show you how to fix that. I'm gonna set this to 0. So what I'm gonna do is gonna send a loop here, and another one here. And then making kind of like a square here. Now I'm gonna come with my knife tool, and I'm gonna add like a corner here in all the places where I have like that weird excrusion corner that needs like more geometry. Okay, perfect. So now that I added, if I was to subdivide, you can see that now it has a little bit more geometry. It's technically a triangle, but it has a little bit more geometry and it's holding the corner. So when I add my, I'm gonna go back to edge mode and I'm gonna go back to sharp edges. Actually, I wanna make sure that I'm not selecting these ones, because I don't wanna add a velvet to that. And it's adding this loop. I'm pressing Shift Alt at the same time, and that will deselect the loop that I don't want. You can select what you want by yourself, or you can use the tool, whatever is easier for you. Just want to make sure I'm selecting all the corners I want to add the velvet. I'm selecting them all at the same time because I want them to be equally distributed. If I add one here, it's calculating a medium distance, so it's not going to be the same that if I add it here. You know, I can quickly show you that. Like if I was going to add one here, um, you know, like what 0.01 means here, it's not going to be the same what 0.01 is here. Like it might be close, but it might not be the same. It really depends on your model. So that's why I want to select all of it together at the same time. It kind of add everything together. So just to repeat the step, I'm gonna go to select, sharp edges, and now it's actually selecting better what I want. I just need to add that corner and make sure everything I want is selected. Yeah, I think that's pretty good. So if I add the velvet, I'm gonna do 0.015. I think that's good enough. It doesn't create any like weird anything on the back. Because what happened if it's this is too big, you know, it could start making weird faces screw into each other. So, or if it's too little, it doesn't really happen anything. But if you later need to add something, you know, now you have to add something that is super tight. So yeah, I'm gonna go back to, I think it was this one. Maybe that's too high. I'm gonna put 0.1. Yeah, I think that's better. And then you can see that now I have like a nice quad here. When I add this corner, again, it's because I have arc activated. If I have sharp, it won't do anything. And I will have like this triangle that I don't want because we don't, we want to avoid triangles. They're not the devil, but they're not the best. In hard surfacing, you can have triangles, especially because what I mentioned, you're not deforming. So you can keep those triangles in a specific places, but you want to use them wisely and you want to use them because you need them and not just because it happened to be there. And then just an easy solution here will be put it in arc and it will create this nice quad in all my edges. So when I add that uh, subdivision modifier, is screwing nicely, it's not pinching, it's looking good. And then what visually, what we're doing is that if I was going to send an edge loop, you see if I send it here, it's gonna go through here, but just selecting mergers because I don't know if you saw, but sometimes when you have merge vertices activated and you send something like that, you could create problems like this by mistake, where like your vertex just merged to the closest one. So be careful with that. Make sure this is not activated if you don't need it. But yeah, what we're doing with this loop is that I'm redirecting my geometry to say, go on the side. So it's giving me that nice support edge that is now allowing me to, um, you know, add subdivisions to my model. And what that's gonna do is that I come outside, I'm gonna deactivate this so we can not see that wireframe. If I come and shade smooth, now I have like this really nice shading. And like these edges are very sharp and nice. And there is not too much of a weird pinching here. So that means that when you put your UVs and you put your forget the word, your textures, they're gonna be displayed nicely because your model has enough geometry. Okay, so technically that would be the top of like your chest. That would be the lid. Oh yeah, it's because I have this disactivated. This not only has that wireframe, it has kind of like all your selection tools. Um, you can like disactivate your floor. You can disactivate these like lines where it tells you where your axes are. You know, you see that the green one disappears. Um, Play with this menu because it has a lot of things that you might need. But yeah, technically, if I disactivate my wireframe, this would be the top of her chest. I can like play more with it. I can add a little bit more detail. I didn't like too much how I did this. But I could just like, you know, for purposes, I'm not gonna go back and fix it because otherwise I will be repeating myself again. But then yeah, and then you have like the inside of your chest in case you need it. If you don't need it, don't make it, especially if you're working for video games. Like every geometry counts because when you render or when you're like in game engine, it's counting every single polygon. So ideally you will delete faces that you don't need. That way you're saving geometry and you're running your program in a more effective way. So this was just to show you a way to do it. But in case that they're like, we're not gonna open this chest, we just want it on the background to look pretty in someone's room and like maybe in the main character room, then you don't have to worry about those details and you can just like do the outside. Um, Perfect. Any questions up to here? The bottom of the chest is kind of like the same, to be honest. So we're gonna be repeating a lot of the same process. I'm gonna show you a couple different stuff. But yeah, if you have any questions so far, please let me know or anything you wanna add. Okay, so I'm gonna bring back my reference. I'm gonna go back to tree and I'm gonna bring back that cube and then I'm gonna work on the bottom. I do want to show you this. Is it this one? Yeah, it's this guy. So I was working earlier, like yesterday, on the chest just because I wanted to make sure. Um, you see, like for example, like I like more how I did this part than this, so I will probably go back and make it a little bit nicer. We're kind of applying the same ideas to the bottom. I'm adding like a loop cut through this part and this part, and then on the sides and screwing inside. But then I did something here that then I was like, you know, I wanted to have the chest and the legs together. So I'm gonna try to figure out how to do it. So this is what I came with. I'm gonna turn off the what's the word? The subdivision modifier so we see the real geometry. You can see I handled this in a very similar way. And then right here, I was like, well, I want to do everything to keep the pieces together. So I kind of like did this thing that I'm going to show you how I did later. That honestly, I didn't like that much. It's one of those moments that you realize like maybe I should have kept them separately. You know, maybe I didn't have to bother to do all of these and add all this geometry to have them together. Sometimes Again, depending what you're doing and the detail you need in your model, you might find that it's better to keep things separate. So if I subdivide this, you know, I have some like weird pinching here. Like this face is the one that bothers me. It's not a big deal. Like if you're looking your model from far, it's not gonna do that much damage, you know? But it's there and it bothers me. I know it exists. But then also it means that I had to add like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 loops right there. And then I have to add this corner to like kind of do some control edge there, like on this one. And it creates more pinching. So yeah, like in retrospective, after I did this, I was like, you know what? Maybe it doesn't really matter that they're together. They could be separate, or they could be together technically. Because like if you see the model after I applied the subdivision, after I applied the shade smooth, I do still have enough geometry that this looks nice. And again, because it's a hard surface model that I'm not gonna deform, like this is good enough. It's probably not gonna do too much damage to my UVs and my textures. Um, but I am adding a lot of unnecessary geometry. So yeah, and like for example, for this one, I will rather have those pieces separate. So I'm just gonna hide the chest because we don't need it anymore. No, collection, cube one. Okay, perfect. Just gonna disable all this together. Okay, so, oopsie, don't go too far. I was just saying the way I address this guy is if I go to edit mode. Oh, first I need to make sure I'm selecting it, and then I can go to edit mode. I'm gonna isolate it for a second just to see what I have. I'm gonna delete the top because I don't need it. I technically just need the inside. And then I later will technically do the same way of duplicating my object and then bring them together to make the inside of my chest. Uh, so I'm gonna come to 3. And I'm gonna add my mirror modifier, make sure it's in one loop. Oops. Okay, now that I added, this part is kind of like repetitive, but a lot of modeling it is, which is good, which means like if you understand one concept, you can like do it several times. And you kind of apply that same knowledge to a lot of objects. So I'm gonna do my mirror modifier. This one is gonna be in my y axis because I didn't, it's a simple cube that was just like a scale. I didn't rotate it, I didn't flip it, I didn't do anything crazy. And then I'm gonna make sure that the clipping is activated. Perfect. And then now I address that. I'm going to go back to 3, go back to edit mode, and I'm gonna start adding my edges. Actually, I want my top to be visible, and I want to see a little bit through my, my reference just to make sure like everything kind of makes sense. So if I was gonna add this loop, I'll add it here. Yeah, I think here's good. And then the factor is minus 0.51. I'm just gonna put 5. I can make it even because now I'm gonna do. Oh well, I activate the mirror modifiers, so that's it. I don't have to like when at the beginning when I have to make sure like this one was this and this one was that. Not anymore. because the modifier does it for me. And then I'm gonna add the ones over here. I'll see if I can. I was having some problems early because I wanted to do like the add two, but I can scale them like AdWords. Yeah, no, that's true. I kind of have to like like it will only move them together. Or if I scale them, let me see if I do G, when I press G, yeah, it's gonna move them together. So unfortunately, I kind of have to like add one at a time here. And then make sure it's on one. And then that's looks good enough. Minus 0.5. And then I'm gonna add another one here. And then I think it changes because now it's not, it's not counting the entire thing, like the entire width of the model. It's counting from this loop to this loop. So 0.5 is not gonna be the most accurate anymore. So I'm gonna still add that loop, and then I'm gonna add this one a little bit by eye. Let me see what 0.4 does. No, 0.3. Yeah, that looks even. That's maybe a little bit too small. 35, I think. I think that's good. Okay. And then I'm gonna have to add some loops on the side too. I'm just gonna deactivate the toggle to look at the model easy. And then here I can do that of like adding two edges and then come to my transform tool and then kind of like scale them together. Just kind of like look at my model, look at my proportions. Oops, hit the wrong one. And that's pretty much it. So what I did to add the legs, the way I did is that I came here, select the two faces, into three, and I just screw them down. Like this is a useful way, like for like tables and for like other types of props. I think it's just because this specific one chess wants to have like the triangle legs. It kind of creates a little bit of problem. Because yeah, technically this is fine. Just it doesn't create too much problems. It wasn't exactly how I did it. I actually screwed it, scale it. Oops, sorry. Gotta remember to be out of my canvas. And you see that it's doing this weird thing where like it's trying to go to the middle, but I don't want that. So I want to show you that because I still the best tool in the planet is that you can come here and put individual origins. And then when you scale, it scales the face. So that's very useful for a lot of stuff. And then I press E again, and then you have like your leg. And then this is kind of like the way you do it for like some objects. But yeah, like, because I want to send, because this object has like the excrusions here and here, and it has so much like extra geometry around the chest. I do think it's better to keep the legs separate. But just to show you the triangular shape, if I press S again, it's gonna scale it all uniform together. And now I have those little leggies over there. And that's kind of like easy. So yeah, this tool is individual origins. Usually you are gonna keep it in medium point, which is kind of like the default. But it's good to know that you can't do that. in other situations. And then the other one I'm gonna use is, again, I'm gonna isolate this object by being in object mode and selecting it. And then I'm gonna come to edit mode again. And then I'm gonna select the faces I'm gonna screw. I wanna screw these ones. If I come to bounding box center, now it brings my pivot point to the like, kind of like to the center of the model. And when I scale, so when I screw and scale, oh my God, I keep forgetting that out of my canvas. It kind of does it all evenly and together, you know? And then you can like edit this. But I find that using the bounding box center is kind of like the most even way to scale it. Because if you do it with median point, um, it does the job well too. You can use any of the two. It kind of depends on what you're doing. I just want you to have like as many options as you want. I kind of like what it did here actually. So I'm just gonna, oops, again, out of the canvas. One day I'll remember that. And then I'm gonna scale it. And then actually I think this one, this two, I can like make it a little bit, like push them. They're too far. I think that's good. And yeah, it's kind of like the same process. Like, you know, now that I'm gonna add those, I think I have a weird face here. Yeah, I have this one. You can delete the faces. Like a way to fix your malformed geometry. This is a good chance to learn it because I think what's happening is I have, what do I have activated? Why you did that? Yeah, you see I have this one. So I'm just gonna select that and pull the face. And probably that means that I have the same problem here. Yeah, I'm just gonna delete that, place this, press Alt, oh no, press 1, 2. Oh, it's not working, sorry. Okay, I'm just gonna select all of the faces and then individual, make sure they're deleted and that there is no more weird things. Yeah, that's better. And then you can just fill the hole by pressing Alt and pressing the line and then Shift Alt and then you press F, it fills the hole. And then you don't have any malformed geometry hanging in there. Okay, yeah, that's good. So yeah, same that we did before. I'm just gonna add this. Oh, whoopsie. Make sure it's in one. Add this pot. Now I need an extra one on top. And then I need one here, one here. And that's pretty much it. So I'm gonna go. And ooh, I didn't duplicate my model. You see, I forgot. I should have like in an early stage that kind of happens, duplicate my model so I will have like a simpler um a square, like so I don't have to like replicate like I don't have to replicate all this extra geometry inside. Because right now, I mean, I'm gonna do it just because I forget and I don't want you to watch me redo all of this. So if I was going to duplicate now before I add anything else, we say Shift D and press left click, and then I'm gonna scale a little bit inside. And then I'm gonna come to 1 and make sure like just like another little issue we have is that it's technically not aligned. So I'm just gonna pull it up. So when I create that fill and connect all my edges with the knife tool, uh, it's not like going on an angle inside like this. It's like flat. Um, but yeah, now I have like all this geometry inside as well. I could also just bring um, this face a little bit on. Mm, no, it messes up too much with the geometry. That's why you want to like duplicate and do something like with lower topology. Because now if I do this, it kind of like messes up. I think if I press G, it doesn't want to work like the other that I did. But yeah. Okay, now that I have these two, I'm gonna control J and I'm gonna combine them. Another one object together with both a mirror modifier. So I can just shift out these edges and shift out these edges and then hit F and it creates the like filling of my model. And then I will just do that kind of like same process of coming with my knife tool and make sure that this is all together. Like all edges have like a place to go. So I'm gonna hit enter because I messed up one of them. Yeah, here. I think I have said this so many times, but right click will leave me alone. Will release the tool so I can do the next one. So I hit right click and then to connect the points, it's with left click. And then to confirm the probe, because if right now, if I leave the tool, it's not gonna do any of this. So make sure you hit enter. And now all of those cuts are real geometry. And then if we remember to check our normal face orientation, we will know that we're gonna have the same issues last time where like, because I duplicate the inside faces of the model, technically this is the in face and inside orientation. So if I come to face orientation, again, this is red, this is blue. So I'm gonna have problems when I try to add a velvet or like support edges, or when I try to render it. These faces are not gonna render. Uh, they're probably gonna render black. At least in Maya they render black. I don't know if in Blender they do the same, but they don't display your textures or your UVs because technically they're facing inside. So I select one face, I press L, which is kind of like link selected, select linked. So it's just gonna select all the object that is connected. And then Shift N to recalculate normals. So now everything is looking to my camera and I can add those support edges now. That will get me a nice subdivision. So I'm just gonna disable this now. I'm gonna activate my wireframe. And then yeah, we're here now. And then we can come to select. sharp edges. See, right now, I think, oh, it's because I'm in face mode. It's having that issue. So let me see, select sharp edges. Okay, it's doing a better job right here. Still missing these guys, this corner. And you can see that now it's selecting also my inside. So that means that if I don't put like all those super edges and velvets in this inside geometry too, it's not gonna be sharp edges like the outside. So technically I will have to add all the geometry um, that I add outside also inside. And that's why in one of those instances that you're like, do you really need that geometry? Or could you not put a face? Or could you like leave it empty, for example? Or should you, uh, do what I did on the lead, which was like duplicate a simplified version of the object and then combine them. So I think this is good enough. Yeah, I don't see anything weird. So if I add that bevel, I think I didn't say it. It's Control B in your keyboard. Yeah, if you hit Control B, it's just gonna do the tool. I think you want to keep in mind what you use on top to use it on the bottom. Otherwise, like the display is gonna be different. I think it was 0.01, if I'm not wrong. And then, oh, I forgot to add the corners. So you see that here I'm having some issues. Yeah, in all my edges, I forgot. Whoopsie. Well, we can Control C and then quickly do that. Um, this is like a very useful technique. You're seeing it in car surfacing modeling right now, but when you retopo faces, um, you kind of want to use that, like redirecting your edge loops into another part of the model. So now by adding these two, I'm telling my face to send my loop through this instead of this. So it helps you control your geometry. And we will see like like during the workshop, we will see like other examples where you can use that. Um, I think the place the most that you will use it is Retopo. Then I don't know if everyone knows what retopology means. Oh my god, I think I hit. Oh no, I'm good. I'm good. Why is not? Okay, I don't know what's going on there. But I'm just gonna hit enter to make sure these two are here. Just gonna get out of my tool for a second and see if that will like kind of reset it if I'm doing something wrong. Yeah, sorry, what I was trying to say, if I don't know if everyone knows what retopology means, but usually you will use it for if you're making a, a sculpt of a model, like for example, a human character, an animal, something more organic, and you're starting with a high poly that is like too high and it has like a lot of detail, then later you have to import that high poly into your 3D program out of like your sculpting program and then lower the topology. And most of the time you're doing manually. So a great example of that is faces, creatures, like all of that. So we're probably gonna see some of those examples. Uh, and then I can maybe show you something more organic I'm working on by the end if we have time. Just to give you kind of like the example of like low poly, high poly. Um, okay. I add my edges, I hit enter. Oh, I forget one here. See, it's not adding. That maybe means I add something wrong. It must be some malformed geometry. I'm just gonna press enter, and I'm gonna press this. Everything is good in here. Ah, there you go. Okay, yeah, that's what I was making a problem. So I'm just gonna pull these guys, and then I'm gonna press a snap, and then I'm gonna press merge vertex, and then I'm gonna merge these guys together, and that will take the problem away. Here it's gonna be more complicated. There's more things going on in here. Yeah, I think we did that there, and then I'm dragging this one, and then there must be one here. Yeah, so I'm just gonna pull it. That was a problem. Oops, I'm gonna disactivate this and disactivate my merge vertex because I don't want to have problems with that. But it looks that I'm all good now. Yeah, okay. And now I can add those support edges so I can add the geometry. I think I was having problems here too. Yeah, there's one guy here. Oh my God. I think while I was talking, you know, be careful. That's why I say like I can talk and do at the same time because these things will happen. But it's normal, especially when you begin, you might click things and then forget that you click them. So it's good for you to check all the time, do I have malformed geometry? If something is not working, don't panic. That's probably what's going on instead of like running and trying to find like a solution on internet, being like, a tutorial of why this is not working. You can check for your vertices and see if you have anything extra. And now if something keeps going wrong and now you don't know and you're for sure that you don't have malformed geometry, then now you can panic and look on in the internet or ask in the workshop. In the case you will ask me and text me being like something broke and I don't know how to fix it. And we can probably figure out together. So I want to turn off the snap for a second so just I can pull them out quickly. Okay, that one was done. I'm gonna press the snap and then G, snap, G, snap, G, snap, and then I think the easiest way to check is with a subdivision. I think I still have something here. You see, I have like this weird face that kind of like comes to this, but then this looks fine. That means that I probably have more crazy vertices somewhere around. And I just gotta try to find them. No, it looks like, oh, there you go. There was one more. Yep, it's all good here. And there was one more here. Yeah, I have my merge vertex activated, and I'm gonna do this. Okay, I think I'm finally done. I don't know how many crazy faces I create in those 2 seconds, but it looks like they're all gone. So if I hit my subdivision, everything looks nice here. Everything looks better here. And everything looks terrible over here. So I have to do the same. But you can see the difference. This is a good example of like how like the subdivision will quickly tell you if you have something going crazy. Because this is how it should look with your triangle here. And then this is how it's not supposed to look, especially because you can see that there is like a vertex pulling here and here that is not connected to anything. So I'm just gonna deactivate this and do the same process. So sorry, it's a little bit repetitive. Sorry, I put like this many crazy faces. I don't even know when that happened. But yeah, I'm just gonna quickly pull. I think when I create the vertex, I wasn't careful enough, maybe. But no, there was faces. There's a little bit of everything in here. It is a little bit on purpose because I like to talk about these things because these are like the usual mistakes you would do like the first time you open the program or like the first time you're trying to model something a little bit more complex like a chess. These are like the mistakes you will do for sure. I've been here multiple times today, but also I've been here like when I was learning, and it's something to keep on mind, and it will make your life so much easier. I mean, yeah, I think now we're good. And inside looks good. Okay, so I'm just gonna go back to subdivision 0 and add my vertex. Oh my god, I keep looking at the wrong side. Right here. Enter. Now we're good. It added without any problem. And then if I come here and I do the same, then we have my corner back. Just gonna double check just because like I'm paranoid that I have like crazy faces, but everything looks under control. So this is a moment to add those support edges or like the bevel or creases, however you wanna call them. So I'm gonna put move. I'm just gonna activate this so it's easier to see. Select sharp edges. Oh, whoopsie. There was some vertex, now it's in edge mode. So it's again easier to see. And everything looks like it's just things that are supposed to be not this, and not this. I don't need that. Then here. Yeah, okay. I think we're good. I'm gonna quickly Control B and oh, I think it added, but I clicked too soon, so it didn't move it. So I'm just gonna offset it manually. We say 0.01. And again, make sure it's in arc, and the sharp will give you a corner. Arc will give you nice quads. And that's why we put the support edges here. And everything looks. Oh, I see what happened. You see, sometimes this happens, especially when you don't select things manually. You could run into this. Didn't notice this. I need that one. This one and this one. I don't need them. Same here. Nope. Nope and nope. Okay. And then we're back to the bevel. And then I just pull the handle. And then I manually edit my number. And everything looks good. I forgot to put the, also like we should have put some guys over here to follow kind of like the same geometry we're doing outside. I'm not gonna torture you and show you that again. I think we have gone through it enough times. Um, but if I add the modifier, then everything outside is working good. Inside, not that great. You see, like I have like topology that is going to nothing, which is not good. But for today purposes and for time, we're gonna leave it like that. But now if I'm gonna deactivate this, just so we only see your chest, uh, and make sure we're in shape smooth, you can see nice clean hard edges, nice bottom. And then if I bring back my lead, then just probably like bring it a little bit down. We are like in a good place to keep going with your chest. Um, this is like good enough in most cases. There is a lot of detail that you can like fake, you know? You can project it by using textures. You can use normal maps, which we talked a little bit last session. You could, you know, like technically you don't need to create all these like creases and small dips and like cracks. You could like paint them by hand and kind of like use normal maps to fake them. You could also take this object. That's kind of why we are adding the also the subdivision modifier. You know, um, I'm gonna bring my mirror under, and now it's gonna apply that subdivision. So when I apply the subdivision, you can see like now my chest has so much geometry. And if I was going to apply right here, Control A, if I was going to apply that modifier, it will give me all this geometry that then later I can come to the sculpting side of Blender. Um, which one should I use? Maybe flatten. Like I can. I don't know if it's enough geometry. Sorry, I'm not too. I'm still working on the sculpting side. I'm more like I like ZBrush more. I'm still like experimenting with the sculpting, but the thing is like you could sculpt detail in a high topology and then project that detail into your lower poly. That's kind of like what I want to say. Um, because if I, yeah, okay, like for example, like the grab 2D tool or like the grab tool, like I can start moving this. I can like probably come and start moving things. And this is like, I do like, the mainly one I use is the grab tool, is because you can add a lot of variation to your model after you're done. You know, like you can say, maybe not with a chest because it's too like on the hard surfacing side. But if I was to say, I want to make some wonky edges, I can just like pull things and like move it around. And if I have my mirror modifier, it's going to apply it on the other side. So yeah, you can come and play with the sculpting side. We will later apply some of these ones. I think rocks are the best way to learn how to use the sculpting, just because you can use all the brushes. And then we will be working a couple of those during the workshop. But yeah, this is pretty much what I wanted to show you today. I want to quickly show you the cat because I work on it this morning. I don't want to like, unless you want me to, because we have like 30 minutes. So I would like to like maybe answer some questions about like anything you want to ask me now that I'm here, or like about like the workshop itself. Um, and then we technically didn't have a break, so that too. Here's a cat. The cat is also another good example that you can make it separate pieces. There is something nice on Blender that will smooth. It's like called shrink grab modifier mixed with another thing that I will show you on the workshop, but it will make like the transition between this object and this object and this object better. So you can like keep it in separate pieces, but when you render, it kind of looks closer to this, where like it's still separate, but it kind of looks that it's being together. So this is how I kind of like address the cat hinge. I'm gonna come to modifiers because again, I use a subdivision modifier and I use a mirror modifier. And then I kind of create this from a cube. Um, and you can see I add those control edges. So when I add the, oh, sorry. Yeah, that when I add the subdivision, it looks smooth. Oh, it's because I have this up. You know, it looks smooth. There is not too much pinching. Not a, and then, as I was mentioning before, if I quickly bring here, like these are the inside faces of the model that are kind of like clipping through the model, but you want to make sure that they're not clipping inside your chest in case you were gonna open it and show it inside. You don't want like part of the hinge, like the cat hinge showing. So you gotta make sure like that's aligned. And then the other thing that we were talking about is sometimes you don't need those faces, you know. I delete the faces inside because you're not gonna see them and they're gonna be clipping through like another part of the model. So that's like a good example of like, you know, you don't need that geometry. Um, you could like just get rid of them and it will save some time on the rendering process because the program will be, even if you can't see them through the camera, the program still like knows that they're there and is going to calculate the information for them even if you can't see them. So that's more like for efficiency than anything. um yeah, and that's kind of how I address that. I also, I mean, I can show you quickly this, but you can see that if you see from afar it looks like a triangle, but if you see from close it's not a triangle. It's like there was one vertex here, one vertex here, and this was like a flat face. So this was a quad, this was a quad, this was another quad, this was a quad. And then I just like add some edge loops and then I add the bevel for support edges. So you can fake triangles that way. Like if something, the same way that I can explain with the legs. Right here, where like the legs also from far, oops, sorry, from far are gonna look like triangles, but if you get close, they technically a square and they're made out of quads. So that's also a good technique to keep in mind. That just because it looks like a triangle doesn't mean that it's a triangle, and you can like keep the geometry clean. Yeah, I think that's pretty much it. Um, I was gonna say why it's looking weird. It's because it doesn't have the subdivision, so it kind of looks weird. without the smoothing. And then if I activate my hinge, that's kind of like how it will start looking. And then, of course, with more time, you can make like the hinges on the side. Um, if you, I'm gonna bring back, oh, it's because I'm in sculpting. I was in modeling. Oopsie. If you see this one, this is just kind of like a semicircle. This is just a cylinder. Again, circle. The cat face is quite simple. Now you know that these triangles can be quads, and you can imagine the geometry like that. So that's kind of like the closest like I think we can get today to the chest. I would like to leave like the last 30 minutes, like a little bit of 30 minutes for people to ask questions or to share anything they want to do 3D related. Mm, And yeah, that's pretty much it. I don't know if you want to talk about something else or you have like a question.
I
Right
got a
now.
question.
Yeah.
Do you think there will be like a workshop series that only focuses on Blender 2D animation in the future? Because I want to start using Blender because I want to do focus on 2D animations. That's where I graduated from. But I haven't done any animation at all since 2024 because I was so like I was still looking for jobs in my area and I was like so overworked and stressed at that time. So I want to go back into animation, but I don't know where to start.
Yeah, 2D in Blender. I know like I had never used it, but I know they add like a crazy 2D part of the program. I don't think I'm not sure if the school is gonna like I know if you come to 2D animation, you get now all of this, that it kind of looks like Toon Boom, where like I think you can like hand draw or animate like the same way that you would do it in the other program. You might have like this is fairly new on the program, so I personally don't know how to use it, especially because I'm more of a 3D animator. So in the workshop, we are gonna see like some basic uh like 3D animation tools. Uh, we're probably gonna do like the classic, like a bouncing ball. I'm gonna show you how to do camera animations and how to move around and make your keys and like kind of like the same way you would do in other programs. But I personally don't know this side of Blender. It's still, I would say, is it's a lot for me just because I don't know that 2D that much. Um, but I pretty confident there is a lot of like information that is coming on how to like animate 2D in this section. I'm sorry that I'm probably that's not like super useful. I don't know if um the school will do that. It will be interesting. I'm probably gonna bring it to the school. It's
Yeah,
just
can
I
you?
think a matter
Yeah.
of finding the person that can teach a full workshop on that. That would be the main concern, and like having enough people then join. Because like I I can be confident teaching this. Like I will have to do a lot of research before
Mhm.
I bring it to the table, to be honest, just because it's not my specialty.
Have you met anyone who done 2D Blender before or made or had met someone who's already expert in both 2D and 3D and Blender that they can somehow fuse them together?
Not really, unfortunately. I think I talked early at the beginning of the class, like how, like, for example, I'm into like a lot of like making 3D objects look like 2D and combining them. But that's kind of like as far as I go. And like the people in my circle, most of them are in the gaming department or like animation. Most of my friends are like they animate in Maya. and they're like all 3D animators. So unfortunately, I don't know anyone personally. I'm probably gonna look for some tutorials, just because I think it's something good to keep in your pocket. I'll just develop those skills,
Yeah,
and if I like, add me on LinkedIn, and then if I find any like good tutorials, I can, or like if I find someone that can help you, I will like send them to you, no problem. I'm gonna um
because it's a really useful tool that you can switch back and forth between 2D and 3D. That's like the only software that kind of does that now.
yeah, absolutely. Like as I said, it's kind of new, which advantage is advantage because there's not a lot of information or like a lot of tutorials. Um, so that can be a little bit frustrating. But definitely you can, like, I will keep my eye open and see if I can help you. But yeah, I mainly specialize on 3D and 3D modeling and a little bit of animation. So I'm gonna put my LinkedIn on the um chat for anyone that wants to like add me to their connections. Just like for any future questions, you know, as I say, if your program explodes, whether it's Maya or Blender, feel free to like send me a direct message and I will do my best to answer your questions, even if it's not like today, you know, because sometimes right now you're like, everything is clear, I don't have any question, and then in 2 days are like, "Ah, I forget how to do that," and you can still message me.
Yeah, because I was thinking about this because I don't like switching softwares all the time when I was doing animation. Like we had to learn Adobe Audition, After Effects, Animate, Toon Boom. Like we have to keep tabs on every software and I just hated that kind of thing. Like I rather stick with one program that does almost everything that I could just switch, the modes, right? Like from 2D,
Hmm.
3D or like something like that. Because I want to do my draft animations in Blender and then like go back and do details in Blender again, like make new layers out of it. I
Yeah,
just don't
and
like switching like software and programs because that's what happened to me after I graduated from animation program 2 years ago. I didn't have money to sustain the subscription for Adobe and Toon Boom. I was so angry that like I decided to go to Credo, the open source for that, and I'm like, damn it! I wish I had done Blender so early in my career. That way, I didn't have to like pay for these software programs.
absolutely. And um I keep tallies in my head of what's better, what's you know. I think like Blender suffers a little bit of like, because it's open source and they have a little bit of everything. Some of their tools or like some of the things they add are not like as efficient as it would be to go into like a different software, especially for 3D, you know. So I always like joke with my friends and keep a tally of like what's better in Blender, what's better in Maya. I think Blender is strong for modeling, like boxing modeling, something like that. It has better tools for sure. I'm sorry. For sculpting, I think ZBrush is still better. The tools in ZBrush are better. I recommend that if you, as a person, you want to get into organic. Sorry, just give me 1 second. I'm gonna cough out of microphone. Okay, I'm back. Sorry about that. I got COVID like the first week of January.
Oh, that sucks.
Yeah, so this is my first week of COVID free, but I still have a little bit of like the coughing. Hmm, for sure. Sticks. So yeah, I was saying ZBrush is fantastic for organic modeling. I can quickly show you an example of why I kind of had like a fence with the sculpting tools in Blender. I'm working on a personal project. This is like uh, tu- 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 tu, a dock that I was working, and I sculpt this on. Actually, I sculpt this guy. As you can see, it has much higher topology. I sculpt this in ZBrush, everything, because I was trying to like box modeling in Blender and then sculpt it, and this is how I look. I wasn't happy. I was trying to like
Oh,
um you know like use the sculpting tools, but I think they're too limited. So at the end, I kind of got frustrated, and I just went into ZBrush and did this, where I was able to get a little bit more of control. And then I did like a manual with topology that you can see here. Um, so it's lower topology. This guy is gonna be rigged and animated in the future. Um, so that's why it's kind of still high. Um, at the beginning, I wanted something closer to like this topology, but then later I decided that if he's gonna be rigged, you need enough topology to allow better deformation. So I think that's why like I complain about like the sculpting side a little bit. Uh, but the texture, like for example, you can't do texture painting inside Maya. You have to go to Substance Painter, and as you say, you have to pay for that subscription if you are paying for it. So that's like a disadvantage, but you can do so much, like these are custom brushes that I download. Um, they add add-ons. I think I might have it installed here. For example, the painting system is a new add-on that is for free that makes your painting like add preset brushes and then your painting. It does it very similar to Photoshop. Like it has layers, it has clipping mask, and it has like a lot of options for you to use. So I think in that sense, of course, like the texture painting side of Blender is fantastic because it's the only program where you can model and you can texture at the same time. And then something that I really like about the program, and maybe we'll be touching at the end, is that you have your compositing. Again, regular you will have to go to like a third-party program, which is like either After Effects or Nuke for most of places in the industry. Where like for these, I have another example. Um, where like if you want to do your composite, you will have to render your render layers and then bring them to a third-party program and do like all your composited in there. But Blender lets you do it inside the program. So I did, for example, what I did here, sorry, in modeling, is that I have one layer that is my flowers. I have another layer that is my foreground objects, which is like my grass. And then I have like a background layer that you can see it here because it's HDR, HDR, I forget the word. Sorry. It's can't pronounce it. It's this guy. It's like you were. Let me look for. Uh, hmm, it's just my pronunciation is not the best, but this is how you spell it. But like that's like the which is like your lighting system that we will go through that on the workshop. But then instead of doing that in a different program, I just came here, separate all my layers. You know, I have my objects, my background, my grass. I add a blur filter into my background, um, put it behind my stuff, and then do all that processing. I also add a blur filter to the grass a little bit. So it kind of blend better. And then I did all of that inside Blender. And the good thing is that if I render, I can see everything instantly done instead of like, having to render everything and then having to go to a third-party program. And then if you don't like something, you have to like go back to your program and switch it. You can see here that I was able to add that blurry effect in the background and in my grass. And just being able to do that within the same program is like a huge advantage because again, you don't have to pay for licenses. You don't have to like worry too much about like
Yeah. You also don't have to worry about converting one file format to another because I remember some programs don't accept like audio files, like for lip syncing. It has to either be WAV or MP3. Like we got it from YouTube. It was like an MP4 file, and we had to convert it into like MP3. It was so hectic.
absolutely, especially with render layers. Like I remember I had to like it this is more like a workflow for like visual effects, for like mixing like real life stuff with um 3D objects or like 3D simulations, like green screen basically. Like you have to make sure like you export all your files in EXR and not PNGs, and then bring that to, as I said, to a different program. And like there is a lot of layers of complexity that you're adding there, but that's why I like the options that Blender gives me, because again, I was able to do all of this composite inside the program. And then technically, they have video editing as well. So
Oh
after
my
I
god.
render everything, and I was like, cool, I'm happy with what I have.
I could have saved so much money when I was in animation school. I can't believe they made me pay for this. I was so mad that they actually promised that they'll give us like a license subscription for a student discount for Harmony. They promised that at the very beginning. And then in the third term, they say that they weren't able to obtain like a student license for us, so we had to pay it out of our own pockets. I was so mad.
And that's, yeah, that's a lot of money. So for example, especially that's something that we're gonna see on the workshop is at some point you wanna like present your models. Um, for example, if we were to finish our chest today, you add all the nice detail, you add the nice textures, you kind of want like a final image, something that you can put in your portfolio. So we're also gonna look into like this part of Blender, like a little bit of compositing on how you can use different render layers to make your project look better. Uh, but also like again, having video editing in the same program, lifesaver. Because again, in Maya, I will have to like render everything and then go to a different program. Usually I was using Premiere or like um you can use like Movie Maker. Like you can use anything. But again, it's another license, it's another program you have to learn. So it's gonna be good that you can do all these things within the same line. You know, you do all your modeling in the same programs, your UVs, you can do your textures, and then you can add your lighting, do your render, and do all your comp and video editing in the same program, because that will save you so much time, so much money. Um, and that's, I think, why Blender is like growing in the industry, is because if I tell you that it has all those tools, now I just save you at least 3 programs. Maybe you're like, as I say, maybe you're like, I still like ZBrush more, or I like Substance Painter more, because especially for like certain like techniques of texturing, you still want to use Substance Painter, just because it has like, it's done just for texturing, so of course it has more tools and has more advanced techniques. But instead of paying for like 4 separate programs, you're only paying for 2, and that can help your personal project, or like your a small production if you want to do something with your friends, or like a game, or like animation shortcut, anything that you're like, I kind of want to create this. It allows you like that much flexibility um for your stuff. And then yeah, um I don't know if anyone has any other question or something that they want to talk about.
I was wondering, how do you like protect your artwork? Because like you have to prove to the studios that this is not AI generated, this is not stolen. Like, how do you prove to people that this is my own original idea or concept design? No one else has made this before, even though it looks similar. Like I got this from an idea that I had when I watched this show, or I played this game, or something like that. Because a lot of portfolios now, it's really hard to tell. And I even asked this question to recruiters, like, is there an example of a portfolio that you remember that stood out to you? And they can't give me a clear answer at all.
I personally use ArtStation for my portfolio. And ArtStation lets you use the tag of no AI, like, of course, vouching that you're being honest, and like the person using the tag is honest, saying like, in this artwork there is no AI using. But also showing your progress would definitely tell the person this is something real, you know. If I um if I just show you like this pretty picture of a chest, you're gonna be like, oh yeah, it could be something that that this person made.
You're muted.
Sorry. My Opera crashed, so it crashed like everything on. I have collapsed in my tabs. I think I opened things too quickly. I was gonna say, especially for your portfolio, you want to show like as much information as possible. I'm gonna go back to like 3D, like for a 3D model, but you will want to show with your topology, like different faces. You want to show your UVs, you want to show your textures. You're probably gonna show a 3D rotation of where you're working, and then that will, like, the more information you show, the clear is for a recruiter that the work that you're making is yours. You know, you kind of want to give them all the information that makes them believe that you're making a, like, you're competent for the job and all of that, you know. I don't know if that would help. But yeah, it's hard to navigate like AI art and like what's real and what's not. You can always use watermarks to protect your artwork. I'm personally not too picky about like my stuff getting stolen, just because the way I see art, I have my own beliefs. So if someone steals something from me, I'm not too concerned. I will move on from it, but it's because it's not my main source of income. I understand for like people that is their source of income, they're gonna, want to protect those things way more, or like make clear that that is their own personal artwork and not AI generated. I just want to quickly show you. For example, if I show you this bat and I'm only showing you like the video of a picture, you're like, nah, it's cool, it's nice, but it could be a bat, it could be AI, you know? It says that it's rendering on Unreal 5, but I don't know if that's true or not. But the second I'm showing you my topology, my UVs with my textures and my normal maps, like once I show you all this information, then you know it's real. And then for you, for 2D, for like a 2D artwork, I would recommend like if you're making props, you have sketches, you have like character explorations, prop explorations, environments. You probably have posed your character, face expressions, do something like that. Those are good things to add to your portfolio, especially if you're like a character designer or like sculpting a character and then making them in 3D. You want to again add as much information to show that it's a functional character that can be in a game or like an animation. So you will benefit from showing like face expressions, character design, rotations, all of that. Because like especially with like AI art, like you get like one flat image and that's all you have. So if like a recruiter just sees a flat image, they might not identify if it's AI or not, but they might not be as interested because like that's the only thing they get, and they can find the things they're looking for the specific person and the specific job they're looking. You know, especially if it's like animation, they're gonna want to see, uh, a little bit more than just the video. You can probably show a little bit of your progress inside the program. This is like you wouldn't put that in your portfolio. That would be more like in an interview where like you could like open the program and show them what you did. Or a good thing that one time I saw someone did is that they make like a presentation explaining how they approach a test. They gave her like a modeling test, model like a hard surface part, and then she did that, she did the test, but also she made like that little PowerPoint presentation saying like, this is my blocking, this is how I address the problem, this is the things I run into, this is how I fix them, this is how much time it took me. And I remember she said that like the recruiter was like impressed because like she went that extra mile to not only complete the test, but to also show them that mental process on why she took the decisions she took. And I think like in a human level, people can appreciate that more because then they know that you're capable of doing the job you're applying for.
I see.
But yeah, it's I know it's complicated. It's a tough time in the industry. That's why like again, this is like more in the workshop just because like we only have so much time to do it here. But I also do want to talk about like other avenues of income because um I know the dream is to work in a studio and make money out of this. Like that, I think that's most of everyone's dream, including me. Um, but there is like other avenues where you can still do in art and get some income, and then maybe it's not your main income, but if you have another main income that lets you do art in the meantime, then you can create for yourself. And that also gives you a lot of independence on what you're doing. Because at the end of the day, if you want to create a film, if you want to create like an animation or like a game, um, you don't need to work on a studio to do that. You just need to know the tools, and you might need people, you might need friends that help you, or you might need to hire people. But we have a lot of options now. You can always look for funding with the Canadian government. You can always apply for Kickstarters. You can always just do it for free, passion of art, and hope that at the end um, it gets you some return. Or if you're working on projects like that, you can always add them on your portfolio. And then those projects will hopefully get you into that job that you want. So as long as you're practicing, as long as you're creating and keeping like your skills sharp, and then you're working in the programs that will get you the job, and you're able to show those skills, it doesn't matter if it's studio work or if it's your personal project. There is value in your personal work as long as it shows that, again, that you're the person that can do the job. Because at the end of the day, that's kind of like what the recruiters matter is like, we need you to model this. Can you do it? And if you have like a lot of evidence that you can do it, then it might be easier to get the job. There is also some complexity with today's time. Like, now you have to be active on LinkedIn. You need to do a lot of networking. You, I know you're in Vancouver, so I don't know what events do you have in Vancouver. For example, in Toronto, we have Taffy. And there is like some industry events once in a while. Sometimes the studios do open houses and let people come in just for networking and to check the studio. I will stay open for those events in your city, because that's where you meet people and you get those connections, and then you can ask those questions to people that already works in the industry in those positions. You want to look for like someone in 2D that can help you. That's probably gonna be in a 2D animation event, or like a Discord meeting, or like a hangout place. It takes like a lot of uh, networking effort nowadays to like get that job, but that's kind of like what you want to do, especially now that post pandemic we have like a lot of online resources to do that. There is like a lot of Discord servers where you can ask questions about like how to do something, but also where like you can weekly meet up with people and share your artwork. And sometimes people need help in their projects and they're willing to pay for that. Maybe not that much, but it's a little bit of money for you. And then it's a piece that you can use in your portfolio, you know? But yeah, I think like there is an animation. I know it's Seagraph is in Vancouver. I think so. I could be wrong. And
We have
there's-
Spark Animation, I
yeah,
think
and
2
then
times a year.
yeah, TAF is once a year. But I will make an effort of like go to those events and meet the people that goes in there, because there are people in the industry and you need a lot of like networking to get the job today. Unfortunately, it's in the day of our parents, you just show up and show your portfolio or show your resume, and you could probably stand if you have like a great portfolio that stand out to other ones, you will probably get the job. But now you need that, and then you also need to know people that will recommend you, that will offer you jobs, that will suggest things. Um, so it's just layers of complexity that we have to navigate through like the industry nowadays. But there's always ways to adapt, and the industry is small, uh, filled with wonderful people. So the more people you know, the more chances you will get to know someone that needs help with something in their studio, in the personal project, and the quicker you could like get into like a small job that could get you into a bigger job in the future. I will still like always, apply to studios, apply to like talk to recruiters, try to ask for advice um over LinkedIn or in person, because it would just give you more tools to get that job. And then it is 9:03, so I don't know if anyone has like any last question, anything they want to say. If not, I can let you go to enjoy the rest of your evening. The class will be uploaded in YouTube within a couple of days. As I say, you can add me to LinkedIn, and I will answer any of your future questions. And then we will be also hosting, like, starting next week, the 10-week workshop where we will be working on a little bit of everything when it comes to 3D art in Blender, but mainly focusing in having like a couple of portfolio pieces by the end of the workshop, and then you to have like an understanding of how to navigate the program, but also you get like the one-on-one time with me, just so I can like guide you, answer your questions. As I say, if something breaks, you don't panic, you ask me, and then either we panic together or then we solve it up together, you know? And then there is like a lot of resources and like stuff that I will go through uh, that will help you get better at 3D art in general.
Thank you so much, Sonia.
Okay, thank you for coming. So yeah, just, you guys can enjoy the rest of your evening, and I will let you go.
Thank you. Bye.
Okay, bye.
Bye.